Welcome back, everybody. I am the Jimmer, and this is my tutorial on how to build a spawn stick. So for those who have no idea what's going on, a spawn stick is used in mini tournaments, typically where you have more than one entry, although sometimes they can be useful in single entry tournaments. But the basic idea is it is a pseudo vehicle that you build that's basically just a long stick with vehicle spawners on it, and the idea is that way you can put all of your different vehicles in a position that you want them to start out. So I think that should explain it pretty well, and if it doesn't, you'll see what's going on here pretty quick. But I imagine if you're watching this video, you already know what one is, and you're just trying to figure out how the hell to get one to work. It can be a little bit tricky. I mean, it's a simple thing, but there are some pitfalls that you can fall into. So the first thing you want to do is build your spawn stick. You can make it out of different materials. Usually, most people just make them out of wood because it's cheap and it's going to despawn pretty much as soon as the battle starts anyway. I've seen people who make them out of like light blocks and different stuff. I just go with wood beams. It's tried and true, and it's organic, so you know it's got to be good. And then depending on how many vehicles you're spawning in and how far apart you want them to be, that's going to determine your size. I'm just going to spawn in I think 3 vehicles just to kind of give you an idea of what you can do with this. If you're only spawning in one vehicle, you literally only need one block and then the spawners. So this is my basic shape. I'm going to spawn in a ship on that end, a ship on that end, and then a plane up in the air. So what you want to do, once you get your frame done, you want to go to the MISC tab, miscellaneous, right here on the left, and then sub-vehicle spawner right here. And these are directional, so you want to make sure it's pointing the way you want it. Depending on how you're spawning things, usually you want it facing forwards, and then if you hit Q while you're looking at it, you'll see that little arrow moving right there. Hopefully that comes through in the video. That is where the vehicle's center of mass, or actually if you have origin block is good, that's where the origin block will spawn if you have one. Otherwise it'll be about the middle of the vehicle generally. And you can do it anywhere from real close to 100 meters away. Generally better to go a little bit further away, as you don't want your vehicle to accidentally bump into the spawn stick and take damage immediately on spawn. And then these other sliders, I have the azimuth, which is so I can have it spawning. This would be the little green thing there is an arrow. Here's see if I can get in a little bit closer. Yeah, that's yeah. You can see it a little bit better there, so you can see get it right in the right spot on the screen. There we go. That's better. You can see it's kind of pointing one way or the other, and that can be useful. I know in Menti does this in the Battleship Brawl. He just spawns everything facing forwards, and if you want to spawn in a broadside, you have to do this. We have using the azimuth to change one way or the other. Or I suppose you could just do it facing forwards and turn your the actual sub-vehicle spawner itself. But this is useful if you have lots of vehicles. You can have some facing left, some facing right, so they don't bump into each other right off the start. And then elevation is either pointing up or pointing down, and that can be useful. Airplanes, it's useful to give them just a little bit of a point up at the beginning. And that, since this is going to spawn the airplane in, I'm going to do that. And that gives it just a little bit of nose up, so when it takes off, it'll go up in the air and won't immediately dive into the water. Not all aircraft need that, but it is handy for some. And then I'm also going to just give this a good distance. Once you have the arrow figured out, a good distance is good. That might be a little excessive. We'll go with 35. Just so that once the vehicle spawns in, it won't be right up against the spawn stick. And so I have that to spawn in the aircraft, and then I'm going to have 2 ships on the end here. I'm actually going to turn this sideways so it's facing this way. So if you can see, the arrow is right there. And then I'm going to use the azimuth to turn it that way. That way I get a little bit more length on my spawn stick without making it bigger. And that also prevents the ship from bumping into the spawn stick on the start. So I've got one there, and then just have this one to set up over here. Alright, and then once you have, the spawn stick is basically done. You can also, if you're concerned about where this spawns, it can be useful to use, also in the miscellaneous, is the origin block right here. This block will act as the origin when spawning in a vehicle that contains it. Useful for vehicles that need to be spawned precisely with respect to a larger mothership. So I can put this here, and this will also, I believe this works in the tournament mod. I guess I haven't tested it extensively, but it seems to work. So if I put this at the bottom here, this will spawn, if I say, like for instance, an air spawn or a land spawn, this will spawn at that location. So if I have an airplane at the top of this mast here, I want that to be as high as possible, so I'm going to put the origin block down here at the bottom, and then spawn this whole thing sea level, and that should give everything started right where I want it to be. So that is my spawn stick. You can also use these origin blocks on vehicles, and if you have one of those, the origin block will appear right where the arrow is, so that can be useful for getting things lined up just how you want if you want to be super picky. Not entirely necessary, but useful if you're looking to do that sort of thing. So now I've got my spawn stick. My next step is to load in the vehicles that I want. And before you do that, it's a good idea to slow down time. It's the default is the plus and minus keys to the left of the backspace. So I'm going to push the minus key, hold it down for a few seconds, and you can see that time has slowed way down. You can see that bobbing really slowly now. And then you want to spawn in your vehicles. You want to spawn them in relatively close. They have to be, I think it's like 200 or 300 meters away, or it can't be more than that. But you don't want them too close because they will bump into your spawn stick and cause damage, and it's really irritating. And you want to make sure they're on your team. So I'm going to have a PT boat on this side and another PT boat on this side. It doesn't really matter where you spawn them. It doesn't have to be close to their final position, just close enough that we can merge them all together into a fleet. Load my other PT boat here. So I've got my 2 ships, and then I also want my aircraft. So this is my fleet for my imaginary tournament submission. And then once I have everything spawned in, I want to go to the map. So I press M to go to the map. I select everything, and then I merge these forces together into the fleet. It's this little thing. It's got like a bunch of little boats on it. This one right here, that's the one you want. And then there's one more step. I select it again, and I want to make sure my spawn stick is the flagship. So in this case it is, so I don't have to do anything, but just for educational purposes, this is the button you push. It's got a little flag on it, so if I hit that flag, now the PT boat is the flagship. If that'll often happen, and then it won't, like, you can't get your vehicles to attach, and it's really frustrating. So make sure you go to your spawn stick, and then did it glitch out? Oh, there we go. Spawn stick, and make this force the flagship, and it'll say flagship right next to it, and you're all good to go. And then I can escape out of this menu and go. I'm gonna go back to my spawn stick, and you don't have to build on it, but I find the easiest way is to hit the build button and then go to the vehicle spawners, You can just fly around and do it, but I find it easier to manage if I'm actually building. And so this is my plane. I want the plane at the top of the spawn stick. I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to go, oh, that's kind of nauseating. It flipped over, so it's a little bit weird to look at. But that's why we set everything up beforehand. So also I'm not messing with this stuff. I'm just picking what goes where. So this is one of the PT boats. Doesn't matter which one. They will automatically appear right where they're supposed to. So you don't have to worry about selecting, you know, the one closest to it or whatever. And then right there it'll say taken by me. All your vehicles are selected. You're good to go. Your next step is to save this bad boy. So I'm going to go escape, save vehicle. Sometimes it'll give you, if your spawn stick's really small, it'll give you an error message. But you can click through it and just say, yeah, I want to save it even though it's really small, and it'll still work fine. All build caps. Alright, save it. One thing I will mention here, I think it is glitched where if I pull any of these vehicles out of play before saving it, when you load it in, they won't be with it. You want to make sure everything is in play. In case you don't know how to do that, I think you probably should if you're dealing with this stuff. But you can pull everything right here and play everything, and that should actually, let's warp to it. That should actually set everything up. Oh, it's kind of glitched out there, but you can see how when I spawned it back in, everything lined up how we wanted, which is good. And then I'm gonna, just to make sure this worked, I'm gonna destroy all vehicles. I'm gonna go right down here, and I want this to spawn right at water level, so I'm gonna be at water level. And here, let's speed time back up too. Load vehicle. My spawn stick, and it shows your the total value of all the vehicles, which is nice in the spawn stick. And then I don't know if you can see in the background, but you can actually see the two ships in the plane. So I'm gonna load this in, and here we go, and it works. So that is my tutorial on how to spawn stick. Hopefully I covered everything and kind of made the process a little easier. There are just a lot of little, it's not that complicated, but there's a lot of little places where you can make a misstep and it won't work, and it gets frustrating. So hopefully if that's happened to you, you watch this video and you never have that problem again. But that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.